Hi, Michael and Middleton here, coming to you from a nice little picnic table behind Crossroads Community Covenant in Yelm. Continuing my reading today from The Great Deep, my allegorical fiction novel, and I will let you pause on the back, again if this is the first video you're running across in this series, to read the little introduction about the book on the back. And then I will continue on with chapter 12. If this is the first video of this you're running across, you can just follow the link to the Good Books link, the playlist on my YouTube channel, and get chapters 1 through 11 and more as I go forward. So chapter 12. The glory before William gradually blurred and faded to blackness. As his awareness once again invaded the world of dust and thorns, the first sensation he became aware of was that of cold stone against his cheek. The coolness was pleasant, but then came the pain. A dull ache saturated every cubic inch between his temples, and flashes of fiery alarm radiated from torn flesh and broken bone elsewhere. As he became fully awake once again, the pain overwhelmed him. He would have cried out, but a crushing pain in his lower back prevented it. He could only breathe in shallow, staccato gasps. At first, the pain so overwhelmed him that he did not recall the strange creature he had been chasing after when he fell. As he caught his breath, however, the memory returned. Fear now became the companion of pain. How long had he been unconscious? He did not know. What kind of a weapon had blinded him, causing him to fall? Was that bizarre creature, whatever it was, even now lurking in the shadows, waiting to finish him off? The shadows. The realization suddenly struck him. There were shadows on the wall in front of him, including his own. That meant that his flashlight must still be on and laying somewhere behind him. He began to sit up, pushing against the stone floor with his right hand. A sudden intensification of pain and a distinct weakness told him that this was not a good idea. He collapsed again onto the cave floor. William now braced his left hand against the stone floor and awkwardly pushed himself up to a sitting position. Cradling his right arm, he examined it in the dim light. It was slightly swollen from his elbow down and kind of bent where it shouldn't. It looked like there was an extra joint midway between his elbow and his wrist. Realizing that his arm was broken, a sudden wave of fear overtook William. He knew that there was no way that he'd be able to climb up the rope to get out of the cave with a broken arm. If his dad did come looking for him in the fort, would he notice the passageway leading to this previously unknown section of cave? Would he be able to yell loudly enough to get his dad's attention? William's thoughts shifted to the task of taking stock of his other injuries. A fiery pain throbbed in both kneecaps, but he did not think that either of them were broken. His left ankle was badly sprained, and he didn't know if he'd be able to walk. Besides that, he had a number of cuts, abrasions, and deep bruises on his arms and legs, and an egg-sized lump on the back of his head. He carefully dabbed his left hand on it and then examined his fingers in the light. No blood. That's good. As William drew a deep, painful breath, he suddenly froze. A new wave of fear flashed up his spine. The shadows on the wall in front of him. They were moving. He was obviously not alone. Not knowing what to do, not knowing what he could do, he was paralyzed for a minute or two. Finally, he slowly shifted his weight and turned to face the unknown. There, silhouetted by his flashlight's fading amber glow, stood 100 or more tiny gray creatures like the one he had chased after. Forgetting his injuries, William attempted to stand and flee. The ensuing explosion of pain reminded him, and he crumpled to the cave floor again. A voice rang out through the growing dimness. "Young lord, do not harm yourself further." The creatures, one of them spoke. What? Who are you?" William asked out of the darkness. No more than a tiny spark now remained of the flashlight's former radiance. One of the creatures stood just slightly closer to William than the rest of the assemblage. As it raised a hand into the air, a soft, pure white glow illuminated the cave, like a slow lightning. The light was just as pure and just as white as the inferno that had struck him blind. Yet the glowing brilliance seemed to now carry less force. Instead of a blinding beam, it flowed gently, bathing every inch of the cave in a brilliant yet gentle glow. The creature again spoke, its voice much louder than its stature would suggest. "We are friends, young lord. Please allow us to care for your injuries." 200 eyes probed William's features as he asked, What do you want?" The creature replied, "As I have already stated, young lord, we wish to care for your injuries." The creature speaking wore a robe of sorts and appeared to have a long white beard in addition to the tuft of hair on top of his head. William correctly judged him to be male. A small necklace of some sort hung around his neck, and what appeared to be a drawstring pouch hung from his hip. "Young lord," the creature continued, "we wish to help. Will you allow this?" Stepping to one side, he gestured to another creature to come forward. From some distance back into the crowd there came a feminine-looking creature carrying a small bowl. She slowly paced up beside the first creature and stopped, staring at William. "I guess if they wanted to hurt me," William thought, "they'd have done it by now." Yeah, I guess," he said. The female creature approached William, setting the bowl next to his feet. Studying her features, William noted that she had a kind face. "My name is Lucinda. I am the caregiver," she said. "Please allow me to apply this medicine to your injuries." She wore a ghostly white robe without ornamentation, save a necklace displaying a rather dull-looking pebble, similar to the one worn by the bearded creature. The velvety tuft of hair on her head was a deep chestnut brown. Glancing around at the assembled throng, William noted that their hair seemed to come in numerous shades of brown, black, and silvery gray, in addition to white. Lucinda, aware that William's mind was wandering, spoke again. "I would like to be of assistance. May I please treat your injuries?" William's gaze fell once again upon Lucinda. "What is it?" he asked. "It's not like bat poop or anything like that, is it?" "It contains a variety of herbs, young lord," she replied. "It will soothe the pain and speed your healing. Please show me your injuries." She picked her bowl up and stood by while William used his good arm to remove the boot and sock from the foot with the sprained ankle. Gingerly, Lucinda applied a small amount of the poultice, and the pain faded. Within a few moments' time, the swelling had completely disappeared, and it was almost as if he had never sprained it. "Wow," William said. "Whatever that stuff is, it works great." He then offered his broken arm to Lucinda. She examined it briefly, a look of disappointment and deep concern spreading across her face. "Allow me first to treat your other injuries," she said. "This may require other measures." William agreed and proceeded to awkwardly pull his pants legs up, exposing his kneecaps. For the first time, he was grateful that this particular pair of pants fit him so loosely. Lucinda applied the poultice to each in turn, and the pain evaporated just as it had with his ankle. She treated his other injuries, having the same effect, until she came again to his broken arm. "I am afraid, young lord, that this is beyond my medicine," she said. After a brief pause, she continued, "Please wait here a moment. I have to speak with Sador." "Sador? Who's that?" William asked. "Sador," Lucinda motioned to the bearded creature who had held the glowing stone, "is the elder. I must confer with him." Which one of you was I chasing when I fell?" William asked. Lucinda replied, "That was Enid, my husband. He was too disturbed by the experience to be here. I must apologize on his behalf. He did not mean to cause you harm. Now please remain here. I must confer with Sador." As William did his best to get his sock and boot back on his foot, Lucinda paced over to Sador. As they met, both glanced briefly back at William and removed the tiny stones which hung around their necks. As they began to speak, William noticed that their voices had diminished to a point where they were now just barely discernible. Those necklaces, William thought. The pebbles must somehow amplify their voices. After a moment, Sador handed off the glowing stone which he held to another creature who stood close by. As he did, the stone diminished dramatically before flaring to life again. This captured William's curiosity. I guess maybe you've got to, squeeze that one to make it glow, and the harder you squeeze, the brighter it glows. William could not make out any of what Lucinda and Sador were discussing. However, it was clear that it was an intense discussion. The flow of emotion was quite evident. Sador's head finally bowed, and there was a long silence before he turned to face William again. He hung the pebble necklace around his neck once more and spoke. "Are you well enough to travel, young lord?" "Why do you keep calling me that?" asked William. "My name is William Thornton." Sador sighed. "We shall discuss that soon. Right now, I need to know if you can travel." William carefully stood, cradling his right arm. "Well, I'm sure I can walk fine now, but I'll never get up that rope with this busted arm. And that crack in the wall over there is just way too narrow for me to fit through." "We will travel to our village," Sador began. "It's not far." As he said this, the 100 or so other creatures began filtering off, heading towards the passageway in the far corner. The cave began to grow dim as the creature holding the light-emitting stone retreated down the passageway. Sador removed a tiny stone from the pouch that hung from his hip. To William, it looked like a tiny bead of glass. As Sador squeezed the stone between his fingers, it flared to life, flooding the cave with radiance once again. "In our village," Sador concluded, "there is something that will bring you full healing, if you have the courage to do what is necessary." He said nothing more, but followed the throng of other creatures retreating into the depths. Somewhat hesitantly, William followed. And that's the conclusion of chapter 12.